I got a chance to meet he and Nicole's children in a media setting one time, an impromptu media setting. I really felt bad for them. I felt dirty being part of the media, chasing down this man and his kids one time. The one time I had a chance to interview.
Why were you? What was the
circumstances?
Assignment? Yeah.
Okay. So a year after the trial, like this was 96. So the trial had already gone. He was about to go through the civil litigation, but he had already had custody of the kids after that. After he was acquitted, he had custody of his kids, Sydney, and I forgot his young boy's name, but I remember Sydney. He had come, and no one knew. Like I was working at the Shreveport Times in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I would go across the street from our newsroom building to this Holiday Inn to use the payphone. Think about how I'm dating ourselves now. But I was dating this woman, and I didn't want to make personal calls from my office phone line. So this is pre-cell phone.
Right.
Think about this, yo. So I used to go across the street and have lunch at the Holiday Inn, and I would use the payphone there to check in or whatever with her. And I'm on the payphone randomly, and it's across from the check-in desk. And I turn around, OJ's pushing the luggage cart through the lobby.
Oh,
OJ.
what?
And you can't miss the big head and the wobbly walk. And he's pushing the luggage cart through the lobby, checking into the hotel.
Yeah.
So I tell my young lady, who eventually became my wife, I'm like, hey, OJ Simpson just walked in. This is 96, a year after the trial, right?
Walked into where now?
Walked in the Holiday Inn.
Where? Holiday Inn where?
In Shreveport, Louisiana.
In Shreveport, Louisiana. Okay.
Checks in. And I say, look, I'm going to come. I need to get back to the newsroom, because I got to go figure out what my editors want to do with this. I hang up. OJ's coming back down the hall, and I was like, what's up, OJ? How you doing? He was gregarious. He was like, hey, how you doing, man? And, so we got to talking, and I'm like, so what brings you to Shreveport, Louisiana? This is an L.A. guy and all this.
Yeah.
And he says, my mother's side is having a family reunion about an hour up from north of Shreveport, right before you get to the Arkansas line. And so I just feel, it's time to get away. I have my kids, and, we're just going to go to the family reunion.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, cool, man. Well, listen, I don't know if we said, all right, bet. What I'm saying? Whatever it was just, all right, cool. And then I walked over and told my newsroom people, man, I went back and told my executive editor and all that. And he looked at me and said, WFT, get your ass back over there and let's get a story out of this. Take a camera guy with you and go. And I was like, well, he said he didn't want to be interviewed. You know what I mean? So I respected that. He was like, I don't want to sit down and do any interviews. It's my private time. And I respected it because I asked for that. Yeah. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. And he was still cordial. So I said, look, man, he doesn't want to do any interviews. And he said, that's not his choice.
Oh.
The executive editor, a white man.
Yeah.
From that, hey, this is OJ. We have a chance to exploit this story. And so he sent me back over there, man. And this is my first year as a professional reporter. I go back over to the hotel. By this time, OJ had already checked in and left to go to the casino, the Horseshoe Casino in Shreveport. And the bell, one of the lobby guys was like, yeah, he just went to the Horseshoe. So I was like, all right, got my photographer. We rolled over to the Horseshoe. By the time we showed up at the Horseshoe, he's in the casino lobby. By then, local TV cameras are there. So he eventually comes back up to us, and he recognized me from when I talked to him. I said, listen, man, I have to be here, right? And he gave an impromptu press conference right there, man. And, I wrote the story. Sydney, and I remember this like it was a week ago. Sydney was probably 13 at the time, 12 or 13. And at one point in the press conference, it's OJ standing in front of the casino, 20 cameras out in front of him and reporters. And Sydney walks in front of her dad and says, y'all stop talking to my dad now. Like 13 years old. Dad, let's go. Y'all stop talking to my dad now. And he laughs. He looks at her and laughs. And then, she pushed her hand up, like pushed her hand up to block everybody. And then OJ grabbed her hand, and then they walked off. I wrote that detail in my piece. Yeah. Star Magazine picked it up. So that was my first national byline where I wrote it for the Shreveport Times. But because of the magnitude of it, the Associated Press and Star Magazine, it went into the tabloids, that detail about Sydney putting her hand up and blocking her dad from reporters. And, that was basically the first national story of my career, man. And, as I said, I felt slimy, you know what I mean? Because, it just the whole thing just didn't feel right. But I also felt sensitive to the kids. Yeah. You know, and at the end of the day, man, it is what it is. He ended up losing the civil trial, had to owe the Goldmans all of this money and everything, and then his life just became a spoof after that, man. But as I think about that, when I saw the release about announcing his death, I thought back to when they said his kids and his family would ask for privacy. I immediately thought of Sydney, who's a grown woman now and has kids of her own now, and I'm like, wow, this is it's a full circle moment. But anyway, that's my foray into the whole OJ thing, man. And you know, there are points in your career where you have all these little nuggets of stories that pile up, and at some point you got to chronicle it and write it down. But if I ever do a book, that will be one of the details in the story of my life, man. I had a chance to do that.